Hello and welcome back to the Cartridge Club's coverage of E3. Again, thank you to all who are watching us live or those who have chosen to watch us on demand from the official Cartridge Club YouTube channel. To those unaware of who we are, the Cartridge Club is a community of gamers, collectors, and video game enthusiasts of all ages. And as a community, we come together to discuss our favorite video games, both retro and modern, movies, and pretty much anything else that you could imagine. Today, we are highlighting the E3 press conference for Ubisoft. And joining us today, we have a panel of Ryan, also known as It's Rocket Sauce.
Hello.
We have host of the YouTube channel Frantic Society and the Frantic Thoughts podcast. We have Josh.
What's up?
And we also have author and co-host of the Masters of Unlocking podcast. We have Caleb.
Hello.
Thank you all for being here today. I am Musty Hobbit, host of the YouTube channel Second Breakfast, and we have a bunch in store for you for the rest of today, and we'll be breaking down the biggest news today from Ubisoft. We realize that you could be watching any number of other outlets who are breaking this information down, but we appreciate that you've chosen to join us as we break things down for you. So let's get started with the hottest news out of Ubisoft. And this press conference started off with a bang with a dance number, both pre-recorded and then live as well, announcing what is officially Just Dance 2019. Which is pretty much a staple for Ubisoft. And funny enough, one of the predictions that was levied about Just Dance in the previous run-through was incorrect. Ryan, do you have something to say about Just Dance?
Yeah, it's coming to the Wii. That console ain't dead yet.
There you go. We officially have the latest release for the Wii that has now been announced. So those of you who are collecting a full Wii set, you just got another game to pick up. So and 360 Connect also has functionality for that as well. They are pretty much spreading this as far as they can, and they have. This game is extremely successful, and it's obviously enough for them to continue to put it out there. But
also on the Wii U,
it is on the Wii U too. Yeah. So
also on the Wii U. The one thing I was to say about it, and we won't spend much more time on this, but is I believe that the Wii version, even 2018, is still like the best-selling version of that game, and that's why they probably keep releasing that game on that console. So
I could see that. I could definitely see that. Yeah, so a lot of fun. It kind of set. I feel like there was a different tone compared to some of the other pressers. I've been talking about tone a lot when it comes to the other ones, Microsoft and Bethesda, and the people at Ubisoft seem to really, really love what they do, and it was extremely obvious of this in the second reveal, which. I am very happy that we got more from Beyond Good and Evil 2, and they brought out two of the developers as well as a special guest, which we'll get to in just a second. They showed us a nice new trailer, which included some familiar faces. But Caleb, Beyond Good and Evil 2, was this... how'd you feel about what we got to see this time, which was more than just the cinematic trailers that we've gotten in the past years?
I would say that even though we did get slightly more than a cinematic trailer, my prediction that it would be a disappointment is accurate. And I hope that's not sacrilege to fans of the Well, I Guess Now series. I hadn't played the first one. I'm not too terribly familiar with it. I just know that there was a lot of hype for this one. And a couple things struck me as a little bit strange. One, well, I'll say the good first. One, it still looks phenomenal. It looks incredible. The visuals look really, really, really cool. The sort of tone, to use Musty's word there, that they go with in this game is really cool. It's just it seems like a very cool environment, and I would be happy and excited to play it. But the strange things, two primary strange things, and I apologize, my light looks like it's about ready to flicker off out there. It might be distracting. The two strange things are, one, they said there's going to be gameplay, and I think there was maybe 5.5 seconds of gameplay, possibly. There just wasn't anything there that I noticed. And two, they spent a lot of time on the hit record stuff, which I'm sure we'll talk about here in a little bit. And maybe I'll kind of wait until we get to that portion before I talk about why I think that was strange, although very cool. I also think it was a bit strange how it was presented.
Yeah. So the gameplay itself, a big component of the original game was flying around the environments. So all of this, the part where they were showing the ship kind of turning around and flying through, I'm under the assumption that is gameplay a la the first game. It actually was one of our club games almost 2 years ago at this point, but I feel like I didn't get the feeling from that initial cinematic, like where they were just sort of coasting around, like that didn't feel like gameplay to me at all. This felt a little bit closer. In fact, some of that flight almost looked Crimson Skies-ish to me, which they're entirely different developers, so there wouldn't be any connection there. But just sort of taking that airplane shape and kind of coasting through there. Yes, she did jump out at one point and kind of took out some enemies on top of one of those vehicles, but it isn't pre-alpha. The fact that there's a closed door demo, which is what they were touting at come by our booth and we'll take you behind closed doors and show you some this week, makes me think that there's maybe more to it, but maybe that it's not polished enough to the point where they wanted to put it out on stage as effectively the first thing that you're going to see from this for this show. Which so I can see why you have some reservations about that. Having not played the game, I think maybe that if you had, maybe you'd feel a little bit differently. But
so people who go on
with, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that for those of you who have played the game, did you feel like this segment was all you had expected, some of what you expected, not at all what you wanted? Like, how did you guys feel about it who have actually played it?
I didn't see anything that resembled the first game, in my opinion, from this. Then again, I generally hated that first game, so it didn't. I guess it looks different enough to keep an interest, but I need to see some gameplay more than if there was any. I didn't even realize if there was gameplay. If that was gameplay, then they did a really good job of hiding it for me. But I didn't get a sentiment of what this game is, and I think last year they said this game was a prequel.
They used that term again this year, and I'm a little shaky on the timeline then, because I thought last year they said it was like 30 years ahead, yet we get to see the main protagonist from the first game, Jade. That was a big deal, because to this point I was thinking this was going to be, she wasn't even going to be in the picture yet, and now she's here and she seems like she might be the enemy, which is alarming, but based on the end game of that first game, I can see there being something there. Paige, who's the pig, he was in the first game. He was in the initial trailer, which was probably like 10 years ago at this point. But he was not in last year's, so we didn't know either of them. So there are threads to the original game. I just don't know. I don't know where everything else fits in, and they didn't really tell us that at this point. They will, I'm sure, at some point. And as they continue to develop, I think they'll be a little more forthcoming with this. But no timeline, no year, no month, no quarter, none of that. In fact, they are really looking to kind of flesh the world out with resources, and they're actually taking this crowdsourced approach to it, which is interesting. They're doing what they call the Space Monkey program, which is this crowdsourcing, and then they have some involvement with Hit Record and brought out Joseph Gordon-Levitt to the stage, the first of some star power to actually show up at E3 this year, outside of Andrew WK. Caleb, you had some comments about Hit Record and how this seems interesting. I want to get your take on that.
Yeah, I think it seems really, really interesting. I'm somewhat familiar with Hit Record and what they do, and I think it's a really cool idea to incorporate fan assets into a game. How they do that will be it can either be very problematic or it can be very, very cool. I know Hit Record does operate in sort of they do pay for, it's not just something where people crowdsource and everything's free. And big companies kind of take the results of it for themselves, and artists don't get paid or anything like that. There's definitely a market structure there. So as long as that is maintained, I think it'll be helpful, as long as it's not just Ubisoft trying to get a bunch of free assets from people.
Yeah. So there was a tweet that went out because somebody commented on that, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt himself said that it was a mistake that they cut the part of the script where they acknowledged the payment of their contributors. So
that's good.
So that is there. He's like, he used more strict or stronger language, but he said we messed this up. They scrubbed it for some reason. They decided to cut that part for time.
That seems strange, but yeah, that's good. That's good. And then my only other real concern with it is, or not concern, but a wait and see with it is, it seems strange that they gave so much time to that aspect of it when the game itself doesn't, from my perception anyway, have enough gameplay elements. It almost feels like the Hit Record stuff should have been a veneer after the game has been properly built out and almost ready. I would imagine that all of the art assets are somewhat interchangeable. You know, if you design, say, a poster for an in-game billboard, you have dimensions, and so that poster can then be flipped out with whomever, you know. So it's not as though the developers need those art assets that Hit Record is creating, the Hit Record community is creating. It's not as though the developers would need those assets before they actually build the game or anything like that, I wouldn't think. And so from that perspective, I'm thinking that they probably should have waited a bit. But at the same time, I know that there's a lot of fans out there that just want something about this game. And if they had just showed the visual and not shown the Hit Record stuff, it probably would have been somewhat of a deflating letdown too. So I don't know that they could have done it perfectly either way.
I think it kind of gets the crowd invested and helps not let this sort of fizzle, right? Because they've now shown it at 2 E3s in a row, and it had been dormant for a number of years. And so at this point, we have people who are now, hey, look, I'm creating for the purpose of contributing to this, so now I have a vested interest in this project, and maybe they can use that to, I mean, effectively they're using it to have to take some of the effort off of their hands for putting mosaics on the walls and you know, artwork throughout the streets and things like that, because it seems like it's a very populated world. As the first one was to some extent, but not quite to this level. So really trying to amp that up, which is interesting. It's interesting again that you get the fact that it's a prequel. Still is the moment I saw. I just want to go back. The moment I saw Jade, I thought that maybe they were lying to us, and maybe this was a few years down the road instead of going in the opposite direction. So, but maybe it's not quite the 30 years that they were talking about, because Jade doesn't look that much different in age than she did in the previous game. So, I don't know. But
I did want to say though, I thought the Hit Record part was probably the most interesting for me in this whole thing. I really did like it. Kind of flashed in my head. I'm like, well, I can always, I got my drum sets right there. You know, it's one of those things. But I don't have any more hit recording, equipment anymore. So it's one of those things where it's like, but I like the idea of maybe laying down drum beats and just submitting it just to see if anything gets ever worked into it. That was something that brought interest to me to the game. So.
Yeah, for sure. And the Hit Record thing, I think, is nice that it's not just he said it's not just a contest, right? We're not just having you submit stuff and then it's ours to use. They're collaboratively working to refine what's being put out there. And so it seems nice. And again, to get somebody with that kind of recognizable face behind it, that is Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I think is a great thing. Of course, it's his sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Hit Record is his deal. But yeah, good on him. All right. Any other thoughts on Beyond Good and Evil? Nope. Okay. Next up came Rainbow Six Siege, coming out and kind of announcing their esports initiatives. I think some of us may have been expecting an expansion or maybe some additional content, which I think they again mentioned that they've been putting out content regularly. That game apparently is quite popular. 35 million players, which I don't know that I've met any of those 35 million players to this point. Yeah, that's so probably a big contingency in Europe. I
have a coworker that's just like into it. He's always talking about it. He got me to the point where he let me borrow his copy, and I tried it for a weekend, and I didn't really enjoy it too much because there's team killing, and I just kept getting team killed. He's like, "Man, that's part of the game." But yeah,
we don't want that.
I didn't. I do know one person that's into it out of the 35 million. So.
Yeah. Why? So they're continuing to push that. I know they mentioned 3 invitationals. So if that's your kind of thing, and if you're into that, then hey, there's more Siege to be had there. We forgot to mention that Beyond Good and Evil 2, as they left the stage, we had the first of our live mic accidents, and it was a snafu, but it was bordered on cute to me, because the woman who was on stage, as she got off of there, she basically just very, very loudly said, "We nailed it," and you could just sense that excitement. And talking tone again, Ubisoft last year had the same kind of thing, because they brought Miyamoto out on stage. Everyone there seems to love everything they do, and she was super excited about it. So that maybe that kind of helped amplify some of that. It's great to see people get into it and enjoy their craft. As I assume that the next guy coming out enjoys his craft, we get a man on a dirt bike. No, it was a dirt bike.
A mini dirt bike.
Mini dirt bike. Yeah. Came down there dressed as Super Dave Osborne, basically. Came up on stage and then proceeded to trip and crush a podium, revealing then, after getting up and revealing, Trials Rising. Now you get, this was not an accident. That podium was meant to go. There was nothing. There's nothing connected to that monitor.
What are the odds? I mean, the podium wasn't there for the previous presentation, and all of a sudden they put it there, and as soon as they do,
he Chris Farley'd it, and it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I have not played much of the Trials games myself. I did play Trials of the Blood Dragon, which was a tie-in to the whole Far Cry Blood Dragon saga, but this looked fun. I am not opposed to giving it a try. It seems like those type of games where he said that the important thing is that you crash with style and then and get back up and do it again. What did you guys, Ryan? What did you think of Trials Rising?
It looks like it could be a fun game, but I don't know how much they charge for this, and to me, it seems almost like it should be a free game. Just from my perspective, because it doesn't look like it's much more than just crashing into stuff. But I don't know. It looks like it could be fun, but there's definitely a price I'm willing to pay for this one, and it ain't very high.
Yeah, I mean, I could see this being a $30 title, but I don't know what that entails. Like
$30 even seems a little high for me on this one.
Previous examples, like I don't know how fully fleshed out it is. Is this the type of thing that they supplement with level packs and things like that? Caleb, did you have thoughts on Trials?
Well, I just think I like I had never played the game and any of the Trials games, and I honestly don't even remember ever seeing them. So for me, it was a genuine sort of nice surprise to see this kind of apparently goofy game. But as a side note, though, when the guy came out on the motorcycle, when he first came out, is that the same guy that was crying last year when they revealed Mario plus Rabbids? Like, was he involved in that? It looked like the same guy.
I don't think it is the same guy.
Okay, because at first I thought
I did think it too. You're not alone there, but
And I thought he was almost like playing up the fact that, like, last year he cried, so everyone kind of made fun of him, or it was adorable, but he was coming out like, I'm the man, check me out, I'm on this motorcycle. And I thought he was playing that up, and obviously that wasn't the case. But so I think the game, I think, looks really, really cool. I love these sort of physics-based just kind of games like this. And it really kind of made me wish that there was a My Friend Pedro and Trials sort of mashup, and it would just have, like, you'd be on the motorcycle being able to do all your crazy gunplay and stuff too. So maybe in the future there'll be some kind of mashup like that, but it looks really cool.
You might want to try Trials of the Blood Dragon, because there's some gunplay in that.
Oh, yeah?
And it almost feels like you're doing the Trials biking, but then you've got almost a twin stick shooter kind of thing for a gun at the same time. You might want to give that a try. That kind of hits that cross section. There's some stuff about that game that lacks polish, but
yeah, I'll definitely try it out. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. I thought it looked, not being familiar with the Trials game, one of the things that seemed it seems like it's a game that kind of relies on the first experience mentality, meaning that as you're racing your motorcycle down these tracks, there's certain things that happen probably unexpectedly. A bridge will collapse and all of a sudden you have to kind of drive under it or do all these kind of things. And my fear would be that if you have to replay the same surprising bridge collapse every time, like that could get kind of old. So there'd have to be a lot of new stuff. But again, I could be totally talking out my butt, because maybe that's not how it plays at all, but that would be something that I'd be worried about. So yeah, but it looks cool.
Yeah, and this Trials is notorious for having very, very quick sales as well, price reductions. So, if it does come in at a price point that's too high for you, that probably will come down at some point. But yeah, it was nice. They did say all platforms, which means Switch as well. This is something that's never been on a Switch platform before. So, and February 2019 was the month of release, and they said there's a closed beta coming this year that you can register for now if you are interested in that. And so coming after that, we had the Division 2. We had some of this in the Xbox press conference here, but we got a little bit more. The creative director came out. Let's see. Who wants to kind of talk about Division 2? I apologize. I actually stepped away for a moment during that, because I figured it would not be a ton of new stuff. But Josh,
I'll talk about it.
What'd you see?
So Division 1, it's basically kind of like a Destiny. I guess everybody's been, what is this called? A live game. That's what this new thing is that everybody's doing. So this is going to be, they announced there's 3 packs that are going to be coming out that are 3 story packs. And then they made it sound like, oh, it's going to be paid DLC. Then they're like, oh, it's free. And of course, everybody clapped for that. And it seemed like fun. And let's see, what else was there? They announced there's going to be raids. So I don't know how that would work in Division. Would that be like there's this big boss group that you have to go beat and do all these puzzles and stuff? Because every time I think of a raid, I think, oh, there's this dungeon you got to go down into, or for Destiny, it's, oh, you got to go up here and solve all these puzzles. How would they do that in like a, I guess, quote unquote, real world setting? I don't know how they would pull that off, but it's definitely interesting that they're adding that. I think Destiny always tries to, I said Destiny, didn't I? Division always tries to add something new and interesting to their game. They had something called the Dark Zone in the original I keep saying Destiny. I guess they're similar, so similar that I keep doing that. But had the Dark Zone. Basically, you go in there, and it's a hostile zone, and there's these drops that will come out of the sky, and you'd have to go and get these drops, and everybody can see them on the map. So it was kind of like fight for your life to get these drops. So I feel like Division always tries something different, and hopefully these raids is something new and fresh for fans of that game, So, but they didn't show any of it, so it's hard to figure out what that actually it would entail for this type of franchise and experience. So
okay,
yeah,
okay, well, yeah, well, we can move on. That was again, we did get a taste of that yesterday, so this was one that we kind of probably expected, and they did a pretty substantial gameplay demo there, so probably good on them for not going into a second one this time. So somebody's paying attention on their assumption that people are probably watching all of these things. So, but yeah. So moving on, we had already mentioned the team that the guy who cried last year because Miyamoto was on stage. They are. I don't think this is an announcement, but more of a confirmation of the Donkey Kong DLC for Mario and Rabbids. Was this something that was being rumored, or was this already out there?
This has been announced for a while, but I don't know if there was a date quite announced yet. No, I could be wrong about that. But they did have a date after the presentation for when it was coming out, that it's a DLC expansion for the game for Mario Rabbids. But the Donkey Kong one where you play as Donkey Kong and the Rabbids. I didn't get a feel though that it was, because the first one was like a strategy turn-based game, right? I didn't get a feel from what I saw.
It's like XCOM. I mean, yeah.
I didn't get a feel, but then again, I don't know if that was gameplay that I saw, because I saw like the Rabbids playing Donkey Kong. So I don't know if they're sticking with that same exact gameplay or what. But they did come on stage with our buddy J-Rock, his buddy Grant Kirkhope, and he did a live play with, I can't remember the name of the band, but he essentially orchestrated it because he did the music for Mario Rabbids, and he's doing it for the DLC expansion too. And of course, if you're not aware, he's also used to work with Rare back in the day, where he worked on your Banjo-Kazooies, your GoldenEyes. He worked with Rare, so your Donkey Kong.
Didn't he do Donkey Kong Country also?
Yeah, he did the DK rap. That's him. So and they give a little tease of that to start a little bit of the show. Was he started with the Donkey Kong rap? Just it was a little bit, but
Excellent. And then we had a little more of our antics at the end, right? Ryan, you managed to catch this.
Yeah. So the guy who came out, who I can't remember if he was the executive producer for the game, but he seemed to be like a little stuttery when he came out, and I chalked it up to just being nervous and maybe not knowing it. But his microphone was also still on as he was exiting the stage, and he said something along the lines, and then I'm maybe just over exaggerating here, but he sounded like he was very upset, and he said something along the line. He's like, "We changed this 3 times now. I don't know which way to exit," and you could hear him just saying that as he was clearly going off the stage, basically. So. Or behind the stage. I just thought it was funny because this is like the second time we had a mic error, if you will, or a snafu. So
that's too funny. Well, hey, it happens. I mean, you kind of have to allow these to have a little bit. You kind of show some humanity, right? When you get that kind of stuff. But it's kind of he could have dropped some nasty expletives or something, and would have kind of
that would have been even funnier. So.
It might have been, yeah. So then coming up, we get So we get some significant gameplay demo for Skull and Bones, which is the Pirates game that is being built on the Assassin's Creed Black Flag sort of engine that they had for that. We did get a year of 2019. They talked about customizable ships. They kind of showed an encounter where multiple sort of galleons were teaming up against a single one. And I don't know. I mean, like on the heels of Sea of Thieves, which has had its own challenges. Like, do any of you feel like Skull and Bones is something that might be a little bit more along the lines of what you were thinking? Are you at all interested for Skull and Bones at this point? Caleb? Ryan?
No.
I guess the idea of working with a team, but then they kind of, I think at the end, they kind of pissed it away when they said like, oh, but
they
gold is
on each other.
Yeah, it's like gold is for themselves, when they showed like, oh, you can have like 4 ships, 4 friends help take down this, which I'm assuming was a boss ship, if you will, like NPC ship. Or I thought that would be cool, like if you could go with your friends and everything. I think it's 1 person per boat too. I don't know if you could have your friends on your boat or what. Like everyone seemed like they have their own boat.
It's hard to be like you're almost like driving a car and then it has cannons on the side, right? Like yeah. So there's not quite as intricate. Maybe. Granted, I didn't play Black Flag, so I don't have a basis for what that ship combat was like, but it seems like they're really leaning hard into that. Okay. Well, maybe that's the pirate game that some people were hoping for. We maybe not, but it was nice to see more, because I think last year we heard Sea of Thieves, we heard this back to back, and we're just like, is everyone doing pirate games now? Is this the new zombies? And so it's good to see that there's a different approach there. And so we shift gears again to Transference, which is a game that they announced last year with very little to it, and then Elijah Wood came out on stage. So, yay, Elijah Wood! Was kind of happy to see that. He's fellow Hobbit, Elijah Wood, fellow Iowan Elijah Wood. On top of that, so he's part of a production company that is working in tandem with the Ubisoft team to make this atmospheric thriller horror kind of VR game. And it looks creepy. I'm trying to understand, I get what I'm seeing from the trailer. And if you haven't watched the trailer, you should take a look at it. But you're playing as the child of this clearly deranged father who seems to be in a bad spot with his family and trying to do something. Caleb, did you have some thoughts on this?
Yeah, I have. It seems like so it's hard for me not to. It's very much a like what we would traditionally call an FMV style game. It incorporates film into the game mechanics and all this kind of stuff. Now I hesitate to say it's an FMV game just because it seems like that they're trying to do something completely different with the medium, as different as you can be when you're looking at, video footage, two-dimensional on a screen. But, I shouldn't even say two-dimensional because there's a VR component to it. But I hope it succeeds. I hope they can do something truly unique, and not just unique, but also make it work. So I think FMV games have historically, I think, lived off of their novelty, and because there's only so much you can do with when you strip away interactivity. So they've kind of rested on their laurels, these FMV games, in the sense that they can offer kind of one experience. You switch between screens, or you just watch something play out and make a choice, that kind of stuff. If this can do something different with a medium, then I'm all about it. My fear is that it ultimately won't be able to, just because I'm not convinced there is a way to do something different with a medium. So, and also when you have star power in there, this is Elijah Wood's, I believe is his company, SpectraVision. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know what else SpectraVision does. I personally just haven't looked into it. This isn't me saying that they don't do anything. I just don't know what else they do. Unlike Hit Record that we talked about earlier, Hit Record is an entire thing unto in itself, and it's sort of just being used for this video game. SpectraVision, if this is sort of their thing, this is what they do, and this is kind of the main thing is creating video games and stuff. I'm just not familiar with them. So my fear is that they're going to sort of rely on a gimmick. They're going to try to expand a gimmick and try to sell it as though it's a larger than just a gimmick, but ultimately it's going to boil down to being an FMV style gimmick, I fear. And on top of that, it seems like a very melodramatic story. And that's also something that's traditionally FMV games have relied on, very, very melodramatic storytelling. Everything is black or white. Everything is either it's who the evil guy is, who the good guy is. There's no nuance in there at all. Bunker may be the one that came out, I think, a couple of years ago. That may be the one FMV experience that kind of pushes that a little bit. But even that, at its heart, was really very much a static, non-interactive experience. I hope that they're not just throwing VR at it and saying it's more immersive because it's VR. If it's just still you in this room or in this mind as you're going to be in this game, but just in VR, that doesn't change things really that much from a mechanics perspective. So the ultimate question, what can you do with mechanics in a FMV type game? Not much.
True. It seems like there's some thematic stuff with it sounds like there's some attempt, if you've seen the movie, was it Transcendence, that had which has a very similar title, with Johnny Depp, where he uploads his consciousness. I feel like that's some of what they're trying to get across here. I looked up SpectraVision real quick, and they've been around since 2010, and they've been doing mostly horror and thriller movies, none of which that I have ever heard of before. So so it clearly kind of maybe he brings it to film festivals and stuff like that. It doesn't really get major acclaim, but I'm intrigued. It's a VR thing, and so at least there was something VR for us here, and so maybe it'll be interesting. But again, at this point, it is just a trailer with some hallways and some scary stuff happening, which plays very well in VR. So I don't want to talk down to it too much, but I think it could potentially be a fun experience if that's your kind of thing. So.
And this is the second time and I don't know if you mentioned this earlier, but this was at last year's E3. So it's something that they have enough faith into to continue to remind us about, or maybe they've sunk enough money into it that they kind of have to continue to remind us about it.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. They showed us more this year than they did. Like last year, if I remember right, it was like Elijah Wood sitting at a table. And
it wasn't much,
the two other people were sitting next to him, and then that was it. It was all very, very... It was like the elevator pitch for the game in that trailer. This was an actual trailer for the game, and did some blending then of live action and sort of felt kind of, I don't want to throw this around because this carries a lot of weight, but almost PT-ish, but not quite as, I don't know. We'll have to see what the tone of that is. And so the next game was another one that got announced last year, and it was a lot of people kind of mocked it because it was coming in at the end of the Toys to Life thing, and so there were some people who had given it the moniker No Man's Skylanders, and this was StarLink Battle for Atlas, and this game looks dramatically different than it did. I think either they just showed us so much more, or they have shifted things a little bit. I was really impressed with this whole reveal. Josh, do you want to talk about StarLink a little bit here?
Do a barrel roll.
That came out of nowhere. Yes,
that was pretty cool.
At one point, I heard the you could hear it was Slippy, I think, or in the old Super Nintendo style, like you could hear that, and I was just like, no way. And then so Star Fox is going to be, this whole Star Fox team is going to be in this game as well. Yeah. So the concept here is that you've got your controller, there's a piece that fits onto it, and you have a ship that sits on that, and you can plug in things to the ship that change your weaponry. Kind of, you can dial things up as you're playing. No idea on pricing structure or things like that at this point. They did tell us that it's coming on October 16th, and you can pre-order. So there's got to be a price out there somewhere. But then, so Star Fox is announced. They then point out the fact that Miyamoto is sitting right there in the front row. He has been the whole time.
I think they pulled him in right at the end because there was a guy whose seat he took. I don't know if you noticed that. Like, there's a guy crouching on the side. Well, I don't think there's a chair there at all. I think he was like crunched in the walkway.
Oh, like okay.
I think, because I think they planted Miyamoto there just for a few minutes while they introduced him. Because otherwise, I would. If Miyamoto was sitting there the whole time and the guy was just crouched down in the walkway, I'd feel bad for.
That'd be kind of funny. But
it kind of makes me wonder why they don't just make a Star Fox game. I mean, Ubisoft and Nintendo, obviously, they've worked together. I wonder if this is sort of a plant to actually have Ubisoft then create an entire Star Fox game at some point in the future.
Yeah.
It'd be cool.
Yeah, I liked how this looked to me. And I was not as keen on it last year. Yes, the Star Fox thing is pretty intriguing, and the fact that they made an R-Wing as one of the models, and then you can see there's the spots where you can mount the different weapons and things like that. But yeah, so they handed the first of those models to Miyamoto, who then took him promptly backstage to go meet the development team. So that was nice. But I think we'll need to see more. But I'm more excited about StarLink this year than I was last year. But it's in the middle of a super busy October, so
yeah. So do you think
it could be out there to? They could be releasing it at the wrong time, maybe.
Yeah. I was going to ask, do you think it's a good thing for them to have a Toys to Life game right now if it's like really well executed, or do you think it's too late?
I don't know that it's too late. It's a different implementation.
Yeah, that's true.
I just fear, like, if you lose that cannon, if you don't have one in the house, are you know?
Yeah, you can't use that cannon in the game.
Are you hampered? Right? Is it like what happens there? You know, if you scan in that gun at one point, does that mean that you have it always? Like, there's some questions there that, you know, people who have, you know, the little add-on pieces, those things inevitably run away from you. So, or you just keep them locked in a box and you just say, this is perfect and I'll never touch it. In fact, if there is a real R-Wing amiibo, let's just say that it's a glorified amiibo, how in demand are those going to be?
Probably pretty in demand, yeah.
Probably pretty in demand. So they did also mention an exclusive, like there was something about the Switch that was exclusive to that platform. So even though it is coming out to all three, that there will be something unique there for Switch specifically. So, so then we got the big flash of a helmet. I thought at first that this was going to be the Odyssey reveal, or the Odyssey kind of section of the show, and I was mistaken. Bring out one of the developers for Honor, and he talked a little bit about the system and the show or the game, and teased that right now, this week, if you want to try For Honor on PC, the starter edition is free if you download it this week, and you can have it for the foreseeable future.
Through Uplay.
Through Uplay, yes, true. Free is still free, I guess, even if you've got to jump through hoops to do so. And then he announced he showed a trailer, which then he was teasing the future for this, and then did a trailer for the next expansion, which is Marching Fire, which brings in the armies of the Chinese into this. It's already Vikings and knights, and I didn't catch the third.
Samurai.
Well, the samurai are part of this new expansion, right?
No, it's samurai, and then this one's like a Chinese faction. That's a Japanese samurai and then a Chinese faction. Yeah,
gotcha.
Mongolians?
So I don't know.
But did this trailer, Josh? Did this trailer do anything for you? You've played For Honor before, right?
Yeah, I just played the beta when it was live. I didn't actually buy this game. I found the combat to be a pretty fun, but I don't know. I just couldn't get into it, so I never actually ended up buying the game. I just tried the beta, so I don't know if any of us here have actually played it. It's only multiplayer, really.
Yeah. It is. You're right.
Yeah. So.
No, just the beta myself as well. And in fact, I was surprised that it was still around For Honor, and apparently it's very much still around because they gave a lot of time to this game. I have a friend who loves it. He still plays it. I thought he was maybe the only one. And he says over time it's gotten quite a bit better as they updated. The combat was kind of clunky at some point, and it's gotten better, that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't have anything additional to add other than I'm just surprised they gave it so much time. So it's a bigger thing than I realized. Maybe I should take it upon myself to learn more about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they announced another mode called Siege, which was a 4v4 mode, or Breach. I'm sorry, Breach is the name of the mode. It is a Siege type war simulation. It looks like more For Honor. If that was something that you're into, then this is right in your wheelhouse. They then shifted to The Crew 2, which was another one that they talked about last year. So we're getting kind of some rehashing here. There was a little bit of that throughout this, but not a whole lot for that other than a trailer. But they announced that it is coming on June 29th. and that the beta will be starting June 21st, and you can preload it now if you are interested in being part of the beta. So did you guys catch anything in the trailer that you thought was remarkable, or not this time, Josh?
Early buzz so far from the closed beta was it's not that good of a game, but I haven't played it personally, so I don't know. But,
and I don't mean the poo-poo on it, but I remember the first game had a lot of issues too, because I think it's an online-only racing game, right? So
yeah,
sort of in that Forza Horizon kind of realm, but
yeah, they're adding like motorbikes and planes, helicopters, boats, racing, all the different sport racing things you could think of in this one, not just cars. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it'll be out soon enough, so we'll get full reviews on that when it does come out. And if that's your sort of thing, then maybe it'll scratch an itch there. Maybe we'll get some information, early, as we did with Assassin's Creed Odyssey. We got the title and we got the general concept of this a few days early. I'm trying to think of the last time that an Assassin's Creed game has not been leaked, which I think somebody said it was 2 was the first time, or the last time that we haven't heard about it before its actual reveal.
Well, I think it was also, I think in total, there's only like 2 games that haven't been leaked as well. Like it's that many of them. So it not only has it been a long time, there's only been a total of like 2 that haven't been leaked when they were
like
announced.
The first one and the second one.
Probably,
and that's it. Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So Assassin's Creed Odyssey is going to take place in Greece. I did not hear the word assassin used once in this whole conversation. Did I miss that, or like it seems like this is an entirely different thing.
To be honest with you, I didn't catch that until you said it now, because I didn't see them doing too much assassinating, if you will. It seemed more like you were just a soldier. Like maybe they're just relying on, this game could almost be relying on just the name Assassin's Creed, if you will.
Sure.
As opposed to being an Assassin's Creed game. Because I didn't get the vibe that you were going to, it seemed like you had a whole story. Like you start off as a kid, right? You get your weapon, as opposed to just coming straight in from, was it the Artemis, wherever the device is that you
sure. Why am I forgetting this? Yeah, there is no Animus, the Animus, from the real world. It doesn't seem like there's that at all. They could be leaving that, but this game seems like it could stand on its own without that stuff. So why not label this as a new IP? And maybe you kill the stigma of it being an Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of money to be had on keeping the Assassin's Creed name in the game. I mean, if they were to get rid of that, then there's the marketing costs to get this game out there are just so much different. Plus, they're also, I would anticipate, using a lot of the assets and mechanics and engine and all the kind of stuff they've already built for Assassin's Creed. So if they were to try to do it as a new IP, they'd probably have to push it quite a bit further than the way it's is right now. They'd have to even go further with it. So I think it'd just be a lot of money to make it its own separate IP. But yeah, you're right. I didn't catch Assassins in there. I wonder if, and this is the first time that you're able to choose your character. Is that correct?
As male or female, yes.
Yeah. So I wonder if there are any sort of major narrative differences between the 2 threads, and that was why it might be complicated or difficult to integrate the Animus and all that kind of stuff in there, just because that's very specifically a narrative point in a very specific person's life, sort of thing. Sure. So it may be kind of hard. I don't know, but yeah, it seems cool enough. I know VG Collectaholic, member of the Cartridge Club, is super, super, super excited. Ancient Greek stuff is his jam, so he's all about it. I wonder if they'll do similar to what they did with the previous one, Origins, where there's sort of a walkthrough historical teaching sort of thing to it.
That'd be nice. That'd be really nice.
It'd be kind of cool. So.
Yeah, so from some of the story elements that they kind of touched on, it sounds like you are the grandchild of Leonidas. And to those unfamiliar with the 300 legend and all of that, that's a big deal. And you have his spear, and that allows you, again, there's this whole RPG sort of development and skill trees and things like that, which looked compelling to me. I know that Ryan, when you heard RPG, you kind of shook a little bit, right?
I said, right in the toilet it goes. But remember, Socrates is in this game apparently too.
Yeah, so they're touching on a lot of like the famous Greek lore, which is great. I have not played Origins, so I don't know how well they integrated Egypt into that. But I know that some people were very, very pleased with that game and how kind of took things in a different direction. And so this is maybe an evolution of that. It could just be a very big departure from Assassin's Creed. Maybe this is the reinvention that we've been looking for all this time, which I guess is a good thing. Josh, you have some thoughts?
Yeah, the most interesting thing I seen in the gameplay was the dialogue trees. This is the first time that Assassin's Creed's ever done that. Mm-hmm. So are they trying to aim this for you to play it multiple times then? Since you have two different characters and then you have multiple like dialogue trees, would the story be completely different if I picked the male character and I told this guy to F off, and then I picked the female character and then went and hugged that same guy? Would that change the story a lot, or is it going to be a significant change? You know what I mean?
A Mass Effect way kind of thing, where like if you're going for whatever the evil side or the good side.
Yeah, is it going to have that? They didn't really say that in the trailer, but that's what it makes me think they're going for with these dialogue trees.
Yeah, there was one point when the protagonist, she had the option to ask the woman who had summoned her for this mission if they were together, and I don't know what that was about, or if she's like, to me that's almost like this is the one that has the heart next to it. Right, if you've played other BioWare games, like they're sometimes very obvious which line is in the I want to get to know you more kind of thing. So it'd be interesting. This to me this feels all right. Some of the gameplay was a little off. Some of the beach combat toward the end looked a little unpolished, or it didn't have the kind of weight that some of the other actions.
You know, I was gonna say that I felt that like at least when they showed her like walking around, I thought it looked okay. But I thought when she was talking, it looked kind of unpolished when she's talking with Socrates or someone else, even that one guy.
Yeah, some of the lip syncing was off. It felt like. I agree. I think I saw similar stuff that you did there. I mean, it's 4 months out. October 5th is when that game will be here. Yet another massive game coming out in October. And then they dropped a Minotaur on us at the end. So I don't know if they're looking for like full scale, like how deep into the mythology are they going to go? You're apparently you are an offspring of, you have Zeus blood in you somewhere. So it'll be really interesting to see what they end up pulling out of all of that. But
are you assuming Minotaurs are not historically accurate and real life creatures?
I am making the assumption that Minotaurs are not.
All right, I'm backing away from that.
I'm pretty sure Assassin's Creed Origin had like sphinxes you can fight and giant snakes and stuff.
Okay, so it's not as much of a departure from more recent stuff, but granted, there's not like deep Roman or deep Italian myth that you just got to meet, like Leonardo da Vinci and people like that. But interesting. Okay, well, we'll have to see. I'm sure that there are some people who are very, very excited about that, and that it ticks off a lot of the boxes. And so, unfortunately, that's where the show ends. And so I wanted to talk about a couple of things. I wanted to talk about the overall presentation because we've been sort of doing that with each of the shows to this point. What do we think about it? Is this did they do a really good, how well did they do, and maybe what was missing from your perspective? So I want to let's go to Caleb. What did you think of the overall show from what you were able to see, and where do you kind of feel like this fits in the whole grand scheme of things?
I was happy with it. I thought it looked. I thought there was a lot there for people who like Ubisoft games. And not to say that I'm not. It's just I'm not particularly passionate about any specific Ubisoft franchise. I think I feel like in the grand scheme of the conference, it falls right kind of maybe a little higher than the middle. So to me, the Bethesda's presentation is still the high point. Again, I'm a fanboy, so I'm going to defend it no matter what. I'd say this comes in probably second or third. Microsoft's I really liked, so it might be kind of tied with Microsoft's for kind of second place. It is missing Splinter Cell. There was no mention or anything of Splinter Cell, which I'm sure a lot of people will be disappointed by. I would have also liked to see another, I alluded to it earlier, an Ubisoft Nintendo sort of mashup team up. I would have loved to have seen another one of those types of things, more so than just the StarLink stuff. So overall, I'm really happy with it. I think it went really well.
Okay, excellent. Ryan, what'd you think about Ubisoft?
Overall, I think they did a really good show. But I'm gonna kind of agree with Caleb that there wasn't, I think, too much that really that I think that I really want out of these games they showed today. I felt like with some of the games like your For Honor, your The Crew 2, and like StarLink, I felt like I've seen these before, and I kind of wanted maybe that Nintendo mashup or something. I felt like there wasn't much for me here. It felt like it was a good show. It was a long, hour and a half plus show, right? But from what I've seen, there wasn't much for me here. But it felt like a good show, if that makes any sense here. It felt good. Just nothing really, nothing I'm really craving out of this show, though. Okay. So,
Josh, you got any cravings that this inspired, or?
I didn't see Splinter Cell, so I mean, I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. I think the one I look at and that actually would interest me is Assassin's Creed, but I did the same thing with Origins. I'm like, oh, that looks really good, and then I bought it and I only played a little bit of it, so I don't know if I'll end up getting it personally, but it does look like it would be right up my alley because I love that style of game. But besides that, the only one that I was like, hey, I might play that if it's for the right price would be the Trials game that they showed. And besides that, I'm just like, it was a really fun presentation. Oh yeah, and the Star Fox stuff, of course. But yeah, it was a really fun presentation. They had some surprises in there. With the Star Fox is a good example of that. And I love them bringing a marching band at the beginning to set the tone. And they have Grant Kirkhope there near the middle of it to kind of keep that, musical, fun atmosphere going. I thought it was a pretty cool little conference with a lot of games that I personally don't care about, but I know a lot of people would. So yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I thought there was a level of playfulness with this presentation that the other ones, the other ones have had too. So I mean, really all of the live shows, with the exception of EA, really have come off as and really, but Bethesda and this one more so than the rest have come off very human, and you get the feel for who these people are. They don't feel like talking heads. They're willing to take a moment and kind of laugh at themselves, or joke around when there's guys sweeping off the crushed podium, and kind of chuckle at that. At one point, Elijah Wood lost his place on the teleprompter, I think, and kind of was like, "Oh no!" He was embarrassed that it was him that it had happened to. But I thought delivery was good. I feel like they had the right people on stage for it, and you kind of have the big guy show up in the middle when you bring up Star Fox, and then you have him again at the end, kind of wrapping it up. But you don't have him anywhere else throughout. There are some presentations that go way too heavy-handed with their head person, and sometimes that head person is not the person that you should have on stage. But I feel like they had a pretty good balance from all of that. There's some goofiness that was in there, which was totally appropriate, and I feel like they when you open the whole show with, like you said, the marching band and a panda dancing and a very this over the top colorful approach, it kind of allows you to be silly throughout the show. You're not coming out there to grim, Hans Zimmer music, and you allow yourself to have some fun with it. So in general, yeah, I think I liked it, and I had a decent enough time. That wraps up what we've got for Ubisoft. Now I have a couple things I want to mention. The first of which, I haven't mentioned this on the previous shows, but I'm not sure who is here to hear it, but I want to just mention that we are weeks away from the cutoff for room reservations for the big family reunion type thing that we are doing for C3 is what we're calling it. So don't get that confused with E3. And so we have one room left at that rate. So if you were on the fence, if you're waiting, you should probably go get that thing booked before we either can't. Beyond that, I just don't know that we can guarantee availability. So I would encourage you to go take care of that if that's something that you were planning on doing. But we look forward to all of that. The event itself is taking place at the end of July, over July 27th through 29th, which is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so we have rooms blocked off there, but there is one left and available. I'd encourage you to go get it if you were waiting. Also, I wanted to point out, again, one of our community podcasts, the Polykill podcast, is going to be celebrating their 69th episode. So Jake and Travis are going to do all of that live for us. And so they'll be celebrating that live this Thursday, June 14th at 7:30 Eastern on Twitch. And as always, we'll have the usual shtick: poorly harmonized transitions, devolved humor, misinformed hot takes, and community polykills. So if you're beating games, make sure you're putting the hashtag #JustBeatIt on there so that they will have to talk about everything that you've played and beaten over the past couple of weeks. So again, that is Polykill Live Thursday on twitch.tv/polykillpodcast. Make sure you come, be ready to participate. You're going to have a great time. I know that we all will be there. Looking ahead, so currently the PC Gaming Showcase is going. I've been trying to look at a live blog of it, and I'm not seeing a ton of great announcements, or maybe stuff that I'm not sure if there's a ton for us to talk about. However, the one big announcement I just noticed was that Yakuza Kiwami and Yakuza 0 are coming to PC.
Shenmue 1 and 2 HD. I saw that too.
Oh, yeah, it was a Sega.
They just say it now? Oh, yeah, there it is.
A Sega on PC, like, reveal, if you will, where they had a whole bunch of games, classic Sega games coming to PC, if you will.
Oh, cool. Okay. And so I don't know if there's going to be a whole lot more. So I'm on the fence as to whether we close this down and bring up another one. Otherwise, the Sony show is tonight, and that's a big deal. They have the Monday night slot. They always do. It's certainly going to be, there's certainly going to be a lot for them to show. Maybe we'll figure out what Death Stranding really is, but let's get some predictions. Let's go with predictions for the Sony show. And then in the event that there's something from this PC showcase that is an absolute must talk about, we can either include that in with the Sony show, or we can come on the air impromptu if we need to. So let's go through I want either a prediction or a hope for Sony, and we'll go through this round twice, but I want to start with Ryan. I'll give you the first shot at it.
I'm thinking, because it's the 25th anniversary of Mortal Kombat, that I think there will be a new Mortal Kombat game revealed at the Sony show this year.
Mortal Kombat? This would be 11?
11, yeah.
No. Okay. I'm not holding the prediction to that number, but so new Mortal Kombat. Caleb, prediction or hope?
Yeah, my prediction is going to be kind of a gimme. I think they've really promoted that they're going to focus on 4 games. My prediction is that they're going to have a substantially larger number than 4 games. Those 4 games they've preached about will be probably given the most time, but I don't think it's going to be noticeably devoid of other games. Like, it's still going to feel like a very beefy Sony presentation. That's my very easy softball prediction.
Okay, Josh, I'll let you have next crack.
Okay, prediction is since they have association with this studio, Rocksteady is going to come out, reveal what they've been working on for over 3 years. It's going to be either Justice League or Superman.
So Rocksteady, and it is either Superman or Justice League.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to say that one of the 4 big titles is going to have VR functionality, and that will be announced tonight. Ryan, back to you. Prediction or hope?
I guess this is one of. I would say they're both. This is both for me, basically, a prediction and a hope that Resident Evil 2 remake actually gets revealed.
Okay, I like that. Caleb?
My hope is we get some Death Stranding gameplay, and I think that's a stretch. So,
okay, excellent. And then,
yeah, I think. Okay, my hope is that they don't just talk about the 4 games and sit on the couch the entire time and bore us all. Hopefully, it's an interesting and fun show. Like I just don't want a PSX 2. That's not what I want. I want something interesting, blow us away. Hopefully that happens. I don't know.
Okay. I'm going to say I think we hear nothing of Final Fantasy VII Remake.
that's sadly probably very true.
That's quite possibly true.
That's probably the most accurate of all hopes and guesses.
I'm not hoping that it's not there. I'm just predicting it will not be there. Because
I mean, they
we
would
have it
have
earlier
it,
today,
yeah.
so why would we have it now? I should also point out, and I've been ignoring this, and I apologize to the people who are doing the hard work here. Dean has been compiling all of the trailers and announcements and everything on the forums over at cartridgeclub.org. I would encourage you to go check it out. If you've missed out on any of these presentations, or you don't want to watch through everything, if you want to pick and choose what you want to let your eyes absorb, go over to the forums there. He has been, like I said, he's been compiling all of that. So thank you, Dean, for doing that. That's hugely appreciated, because it's hard enough to get prepared to talk about it, but to then also have all of those notes and all of the links and everything. You're awesome. Thank you, Dean, for all of that. Definitely go check out the forums. I know the Discord is going as well. I've been kind of keeping myself out of that conversation, because otherwise, why would you come listen to us if you already knew what we thought? So again, you can check out both locations, but again, Dean has been compiling quite the list. Absolutely have to check it out. So any other quick thoughts on what we've seen here so far? If not, we will look forward to the Sony show. We all in good order? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, let's go through. I want to make sure that people know where to find you, aside from maybe the Discord or on the forums. But Caleb, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me everywhere at Caleb J. Ross, CALEB, the letter J, ROSS, all one word. I am most active on Twitter and YouTube.
Okay.
Oh, and I should probably also promote Masters of Unlocking, the podcast that I co-host. I haven't done that yet. I'm sorry, Scott.
It's all right. I don't think he's come to watch these yet. So
I don't think he has.
About fair play.
That's okay.
So, Josh, where can we find you?
I do a solo podcast where I rant and rave about video games and other stuff. It's called Frantic Thoughts, and you can catch those similar ranting and ravings on Twitter at Frantic Society.
Okay. And Ryan?
You can find me on Twitter at It's Rocket Sauce.
Okay. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at Musty Hobbit or at the YouTube channel Second Breakfast. And we, again, have a big night ahead of us. Sony usually has a lot for their shows, and so we are looking forward to seeing what it is that they will have. Their show starts at 8 p.m. It starts at 9 p.m. Eastern. Let's just do that. 9 p.m. Eastern. They tend to have a lead up. I know they have in years prior. So, and sometimes they do reveal some smaller games during that lead up. So pay attention. Try and find one of those if you see that they're going live a little bit early. I know that last year that's where they announced a couple of the VR titles. One of them being the Accounting Plus, I think, was announced during that intro section. So look forward to that. We will be going live shortly after, and plan to talk for as long as we need to. We will also be doing sort of our recap of the day and sort of the things that we enjoyed up to that point. And then we will go from there. And you know what? I apologize. I totally missed this part. We have also the limited run games presentation came by. I figure we should at least acknowledge it. I know that there's a lot of people in the club who are big supporters of that company and what they do. I know that we have one of our panelists here, and we've already kind of signed off, so I apologize for reining it back in, but I should at least acknowledge it now, because if we don't, I doubt we're going to talk about it during Sony. But Limited Run Games did an E3 presentation and labeled it as such. And to those of us who watched it, Caleb, I throw into you first, but what'd you think of how they did that? What were your kind of general feelings?
So I am a fan of limited run games as a company. I had accumulated most of their PlayStation 4 games up until around number 56 or so, when I just sort of cold turkey thought, I don't need to do this anymore. Still a big fan of the company, though. I like what they do. I think you said it correctly, Musty, that they phrased it as an E3 presentation, and they really shouldn't have done that, because ultimately it didn't really need to happen. I think it was, from a marketing perspective, it was really clever. They can try to get their name into the same conversation as other big entities at E3. So from a marketing perspective, it made sense. At the same time, it was pretty transparent play to just sort of get their name out there. They didn't really have anything to offer other than a list of games, not most of which, but a lot of which have already been released on PlayStation 4 through Limited Run Games, have been released as limited editions on PlayStation 4 and Vita, some of them. So they're porting a lot of those over to Switch, which is great. I'm all for Switch ports, but that to me doesn't necessarily necessitate a presentation or anything like that. They had fun with the low production value of it. They kind of played into that, which I thought was nice, because otherwise, if they sort of overtly stated, hey, we can't compete with these other guys, so let's just have fun with no production quality, really, which I thought was kind of interesting and fun. But overall, it didn't really need to exist. It doesn't make me like the company anymore. It doesn't make me dislike the company. Just didn't need to exist, really.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way, and I think I came in a few seconds late, so I think I may have missed the comment where they were intentionally going for low production quality, and I think it kind of, maybe missing on that is what kind of put me off to it in the beginning. It sounded like they didn't even have a lapel mic on any of these presenters.
No, it was very echoey, obviously. Yeah,
it was like it was in a hallway somewhere, and the fake walking on the green screen was they looked like Parappa the Rappa, because they were 2D in his 3D environment, and then they were shifting them, and I just had a hard time with it. I'm not going to say that there wasn't something that was exciting. They announced a Double Switch, which is a Sega CD game that is in the same vein as Night Trap got announced, which means that we'll at least get digital versions of Double Switch, which I think is great. I think more people need to give that game a try. Again, very similar feel, and some fairly big star power in that game as well. So
yeah. I was surprised that they are releasing Ukulele. Ukulele just seems like a much bigger game than a limited print run would be. So I wonder if they're going to change that up and make that not limited. I don't know.
My only thing with that, and that can happen down the road. That happened with Wonder Boy, right?
Yeah.
But my only thing with that is that maybe it's because it's been out for quite a while now, that it's like, let's just see. Maybe they use it as a testing market, because Wonder Boy sold out instantly. So.
Yeah, I remember, all of them kind of sell out instantly. I mean, a lot of their games sell out almost instantly, it seems. And I think what was interesting is I remember the Ukulele marketing materials had images of Switch versions in their marketing material. So they were planning on a Switch release that far back. And it was, and we never really saw it. It never came to fruition. And so from my perspective, it's almost like it probably didn't sell as well as they thought, as they thought it was going to on PlayStation 4 and Xbox. It was on Xbox, right? Yeah, I think it was. PlayStation 4 and Xbox. And so they then didn't really have the ability to create a Switch version, since that's more expensive to produce. That this is total speculation. I have no data on this at all, but otherwise it seems weird that they would have waited so long to make the Switch version. But I don't know. It's cool. It's a game I really, really liked. A lot of people gave it hate when it was released, but I don't understand where the hate came from. I had a ton of fun with it. It was a fantastic 3D platformer. I just truly, truly, truly enjoyed it, even on day one. So I'm glad more people will potentially get to play it, although probably not many more if it's limited run.
Yeah. So again, I think it's another one of these where they could have gotten just, they're hinging on the fact that somebody's going to go, oh, it's an E3 presentation, and that's their tie-in. So. Josh, Ryan, any thoughts? Anything that are you gonna try and snag Yooka-Laylee on your Switch, or
maybe Yooka-Laylee is the one that got me the most interested here? That was like the biggest announcement out of this for me, where I was somewhat interested. There was a couple of games that looked Snatcher-like, if you will. There's a couple.
There were two. Yeah, there were two of those, and those are coming soon. Those are end of the month, I think.
I don't remember which the names were for those two. If it was Layers of Fear or Observer, I can't remember.
One of them was
Thumper, maybe?
Sorry, no. Thumper is the rhythm violence one, and I'm kind of intrigued there. One of them is 2064 Read Only Memories, and one's Valhalla VA11 HALL-A. Both of those are June 29th.
Is 2064 just coming out on Switch? Because I have a copy from Limited Run on PS4 already.
Yeah, it's on PS4 already. I'm looking at it too.
Yeah, I assume that both of those are going to be Switch then. It may be that both of those are out already if they announce this.
I know that one of the things that people were hyped about was Cosmic Star Heroine never was on Switch. That's getting ported by Limited Run Studios. That's what somebody was saying. Yeah.
They also had which one was that? House in Fate Morgana, which they're actually localizing.
Yeah.
And that's coming out early next year. So I mean, it's not that there weren't things to be said, or not that there weren't things to be talked about. Some of them were just confirming announcements as far as like actual timelines, like the Night Trap one. They were actually refining a little bit closer to an actual date. And then Double Switch was the surprise for me. They said Salt and Sanctuary is coming in August. Apparently there had been a lot of people grilling them for that. Spelunky is going to be on PS4 and Vita, despite being a game that's been out for a very, very long time. But yeah, there's a unique type of player that really is way in on that, and so good for them. This is it's great that they are taking the business and continuing pushing it as hard as they can, but it's not for everybody, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be for everybody. Okay, so apologies again. I should have looped that in before we kind of did our big wrap up. So again, for the panel, thank you guys. And again, if there's some crazy news for the PC Showcase in the next couple minutes, then we'll maybe talk about that early on the next show. If not, we will see you after the Sony presentation. But again, thank you for taking some time to enjoy talking some video games with us. And you guys have a great rest of your evening. We'll catch you later.